So you will have heard on the show that I got doxxed, I got abused, I had hundreds of phone calls, and voicemails, and emails and texts, and then I got hounded by the press. I had the press turning up here with cameras on my doorstep. I lost my license, and then so I go to Israel, and as you know, I filmed a show from Israel. I actually got invited prior to all of this craziness, but I said I can't go traveling to Israel. I've got parish commitments. And then when I got fired, they said, "Well, you're free now, aren't you?" Like, yeah, okay. So I went to Israel, and I got there, and I had an email saying your visa has been revoked. And I'm like, "What is this? Is this spam? Are people trying to troll me? Is this a phishing email?" I sent it to my immigration lawyer, and she said, "No, no, this is legit. You may want to check by logging into the US visa website," which I did, and it said revoked. I'm like, "Oh, okay, what's going on here?" Then I had another email from Esther, the visa waiver, saying my status had changed. So I couldn't come back to the US, either on my visa or by the visa waiver. I had no way back home, which is where I live right now in Grand Rapids in West Michigan, which is where my house is, where all my things are, and well, the things that I had around me. But at this point in time, all of my worldly belongings were in a shipping container on the way from the UK to the US. And so I had nowhere else to go. And I was stuck in Israel. And then President Donald Trump comes out with his announcement saying that if the hostages aren't released by Hamas by Saturday, all hell will break loose. There will be hellfire, I think he said. I'm like, okay, great. So now not only am I stuck in Israel with no way back to America, but this country may be ending the ceasefire and going back to war while I'm here. Fantastic. And so I think, okay, can I go back to England? Can I go and stay with some friends somewhere in the UK? And some politicians said to me, is that wise? Because whoever has lent on the US Embassy in London, which is the ones that revoked my visa, it was London, whoever's lent on them could be leaning on the Met Police too to arrest you as soon as you get back to London and charge you with some trumped up charges, about hate speech or hate crime or something, or call you a Nazi or whatever, just to prevent you from getting a visa again. Because if you had a criminal record, you can't get a visa to America. And so that you may be being set up. And, not to be paranoid, but I've seen friends like Bernie Sporoff got arrested. Tommy Robinson is still in prison. We all know what happened to Pete Lynch. Like this is a time where, to be honest, the crazy left is in power in the UK. I wouldn't put it past them to do something like that. So I'm like, okay, so I can't go back to the UK, can't go back to America. I don't really want to stay in Israel. What am I going to do? It wasn't the best situation I've ever been in my life, to be honest with you. But I had, thankfully, a contact who worked in the US Secretary of State's office. So they got in touch with London, who got in touch with me and said, "What's going on?" I'm like, "Well, you tell me what's going on. I don't know." And I wanted to know, first and foremost, why my visa had been revoked, because I was given no reason, and if I could get it reinstated or if I'd have to reapply. And the first reason they gave me is someone high up in the ACC has said that you're no longer working there. To which I respond, well, I'm not on a religious visa. My visa isn't tied to the ACC. It's not tied to my priestly parish ministry. Why would that make me get revoked? But it is suspicious that if it was the Archbishop, that he waited until I left the country to try and get me my visa revoked so that I can get back in. I find that quite um, unpleasant. But it's just speculation at this point because I don't have a name. Um, But again, my visa wasn't tied to my license. And so they said, well, yeah, we see that actually. That's strange. And then someone else does some digging on the US side and finds that so it's the Visa Coordination Unit who is responsible for revoking visas. But there's also a unit in the US government called the Revocation and Coordination Division. Now, their job is to search for unpleasant people, essentially, potential extremists, terrorists, and people they don't want in the country. And what they do is they scour online content, social media, and they have basically, in recent years, had a witch hunt for conservatives. We know that the FBI was looking for Catholics, for example, as extremists, and it seems that this unit in particular has been looking for conservatives. So it may be the case that I was flagged once all this drama kicked off about my heart goes out to you and so-called the radical leftists were saying he's a Nazi, which clearly not the case. But once all that kicked off, it may be that this was highlighted by the Revocation and Coordination Division, who could have revoked the visa or put pressure on the USMC in London to revoke the visa. It's a department that Doge should look into, to be honest, because it seems that it's a department that could be heavily abused by the left to get rid of anyone on the right in the country. But it's interesting, isn't it, that they don't want to kick out illegal immigrants. They don't want to kick out people abusing the benefit system. They don't want to kick out hardened criminals, but they do want to kick out people with conservative views and Christians. I mean, come on. What times are we living? It's absolute insanity. And so that's where we are with that. And I did manage to get it restored, or at least they told me it was restored, and I checked on the website, it was still revoked. I'm like, oh goodness. So I'd booked a flight at this point back to America Thursday morning, and by Wednesday night it was still not showing as restored. So I went to bed, and Thursday morning I woke up, and thank God it was restored, and I managed to get on my flight with my mother this time to America. She's out here visiting right now, which is lovely. We all need to spend time with our mothers. And so I'm here, I'm back with my visa, thank God. But again, it's just another cancellation after another cancellation. They really are. The enemy is throwing everything he's got at us right now. And it's not particularly just me. It's just us, Christians, conservatives, because they know that they're losing. They have lost, in fact, and they can't bear it. Yes, thank you, Master Chippis. I'm sure she would appreciate that. Oh, hi, Mum Calvin. And that's where we are. So I made it back. Now, in the 3 days I spent in London, hidden away at ARC, I went to the Alliance for Responsible Citizenship conference. This is the conference that is headed up by Jordan Peterson, but it's founded by Baroness Stroud, friends of mine, good people. It was a decent event. It's pretty much all the thought leaders on the conservative side of politics were there, and all people that consider themselves conservatives were there. Kemi Badenoch gave a speech, which I was incredibly disappointed at, and which pretty much just said, real liberalism hasn't been tried. It's what the communists always say. She was like, we need to be more liberal. We're like, I don't think that's really going to work. It's time to be conservative and Christian, and explicitly so. A lot of the speeches were a bit lukewarm and wet in that way. But then Speaker Mike Johnson came on, and he gave a live stream from America, and he was just very Christian, very conservative, mentioned God unafraid and unashamedly. I was like, you can see the massive juxtaposition here between the US and the UK conservatives. We have got a long way to go in the UK. We really do. I just don't know how we're going to get there. Here on the next slide, we've got a few of the people that I saw out there. We can see Jake Rattlesnake, good guy. And he took a photo also with Josiah Trenham, I believe, on the next picture. Good man. I did bump into Father Josiah. I didn't get a picture with him, unfortunately, but he is a good man. If you haven't seen his content, I do recommend it. Check it out. And of course, that's Dominic. That's the Polish politician who's always like, no, we don't want an immigration, thank you. Poland is for the Polish. And everyone's like, whoa, you can't say that, can you? And he does. And it's bold, and I love it. But yes, my on the next tweet is pretty much my summary of the current state of UK conservatism. It's divided by those who consider themselves to be classical liberals, basically libertarians who think that liberalism has gone too far, and if we dial it back a few years, all will be okay. The Blairites, really and truly, it's not good. It's not going to work. And then on the other hand, it's the populists and the Radshrats, who are mostly Christian Zoomers, and they understand that liberalism is actually the problem. They are the ones who are going to solve things if anything can be solved. And as you can see in the other tweet below, it's like real liberalism has never been tried versus Christ is king. That is where we are at as a country right now in the United Kingdom. And it's going to be interesting to see which side wins the battle, because the classical liberals have been in power for a long, long time, and they don't want to give it up to the Zoomers who are coming up and saying, you guys are cringe. It's time for something else. So I'm hoping that they manage to do that.
Thank you for watching my Common Sense Crusade. If you'd like to watch the whole show, you can subscribe to lotuseaters.com for as little as £5 per month, and then you get access to a bank of content as well. My show is 3 p.m. every Thursday. See you there. Deus Vult.